Breaking news now at 5 o'clock out of Rockford. 4 people are dead. 5 others are hurt in a stabbing attack this afternoon in Rockford. Police say they have a man in custody.
They say young minds are full of potential, but sometimes they can also be full of chaos. In the city of Rockford, Christian Soto turned a regular day into a nightmare. It all started with a visit to his friend's house, but what came next was pure horror. Soto fatally stabbed his friend, then his friend's mother. But he didn't stop there. He ran over a postal worker, attacked an innocent family, and brutally assaulted 3 young girls, leaving 15-year-old Jenna A. Newcomb dead. This wasn't just violence, it was a rampage. But what drives a person to such madness? Let's dive into the disturbing story behind this mass murder in Rockford. The day was March 27th, 2024. 22-year-old Christian Ivan Soto went to visit his childhood friend Jacob Schubach for what seemed like a casual hangout. They were just going to smoke at Jacob's house, something they had done countless times before. Smoking together wasn't new to them, and it wasn't Soto's first time by any means. It was a normal routine between friends. But on that day, something went terribly wrong. What exactly happened during that visit is still unclear. However, Soto would later claim that the joint they smoked had been laced with an unknown narcotic. And according to him, it was Jacob's doing. That's when things took a dark turn. Paranoia set in, and Soto's mind spiraled out of control. He became convinced that his friend had betrayed him by putting something in the weed. And then came the moment when everything snapped. In a fit of panic and confusion, Soto grabbed a knife from the kitchen and fatally stabbed Jacob. The scene was horrifying, but sadly, it didn't end there. Soto then turned his sights to Jacob's mother, 63-year-old Ramona. She too became a victim of his paranoia and rage as he fatally stabbed her to death. At this point, Jacob was still desperately trying to escape. Eyewitnesses reported seeing him running frantically across the street, with Soto hot on his heels. Soto was seen holding a black object, which he used to stab Jacob while he was down on the ground. Things took a terrifying turn when Soto jumped into his black Chevy Silverado, which was parked right in the driveway of 2316 Home Street. In a chilling display of brutality, Soto drove over Jacob with his truck. Despite the impact, Jacob managed to get up and make his way back into his house, barely clinging to life. But Soto wasn't done yet. He followed Jacob inside and brutally stabbed him multiple times before leaving the scene. He was only 23 with so much of life ahead of him. After leaving the Schubach home, Christian Soto's terrifying rampage was far from over. He drove his black Chevy Silverado to the 2200 block of Winnetka Lane, where he crossed paths with Jay Larson, a mail carrier who had been working in Rockford for 25 years. A witness living at 2217 Winnetka Lane was the first to spot the chaos. From inside his home, he heard a commotion outside and looked out to see Soto attacking Larson. The witness watched in shock as Soto, holding a black object, pounced on the mailman. Soto was punching Larson while he was lying on the grass near the front of the witness's house. Panicked, the witness opened his front door just as Larson yelled for help, pleading for someone to call the police. As the witness dialed 911, Soto moved toward his house, causing the witness to slam the door shut and lock it. He continued to watch the scene unfold through his window. According to him, Soto then went back to his black Chevy Silverado, which was parked nearby, and retrieved a knife with a bright orange handle. Armed with the knife, Soto returned to Larson and stabbed him multiple times, but the brutality didn't stop there. Soto got back into his truck, drove forward, and ran over Larson. The impact was so severe that it struck a nearby parked vehicle. Not satisfied, Soto reversed the truck and ran over Larson again. The witness saw Soto drive off, disappearing between the houses. The witness later went to the Rockford Police Department, where he was shown a lineup of photos. He confidently identified Soto as the attacker, confirming that it was Soto who had brutally assaulted and ran over Larson. And Soto didn't stop his reign of terror there. As police were dealing with the scene at Winnetka Lane, they received more 911 calls about a new attack at 4803 Cleveland Avenue. When officers arrived, they were greeted by Darlene, her son Jacob, and her daughter Kathy. They reported that Soto had burst into their home armed with a katana-style knife. Darlene had just opened her door to let their dog outside when Soto appeared at the doorway. Without warning, he violently stabbed Darlene on the left side of her face near her eye. Once Soto burst into the house, he wasted no time unleashing chaos. Jacob and Kathy, caught off guard, bravely tried to defend themselves from his relentless assault. Soto's attack was brutal. Kathy took a sharp stab to the lower left side of her chin, leaving her in severe pain. Jacob wasn't any luckier. He got slashed across his forehead and inside his left ear. He couldn't even tell if these wounds were from the knife or from Soto's furious punches. In a desperate effort to fend off their attacker, Jacob grabbed a syrup bottle and swung it at Soto. The blows seemed to catch Soto off guard, causing him to quickly retreat from the house. Darlene, Jacob, and Kathy were rushed to the hospital as soon as possible. Fortunately, their injuries, though serious, weren't life-threatening. After receiving prompt medical attention, they were treated and released, thankfully safe but shaken from the terrifying ordeal. Later, when questioned by the police, Soto admitted to attacking the residents with a knife. He even recalled that while he was in the house, the family's pit bull had bitten him on the leg. After his rampage at Darlene's home, Soto fled on foot. As the police and emergency services scrambled to address the numerous crime scenes, they were flagged down about another incident at 4715 Cleveland Avenue. There, officers discovered another grim scene. 2 injured teenage girls, who we will be calling Sheila and Kia for their privacy, and a deceased girl named Jenna, found in the basement. Jenna's body bore evident signs of severe trauma. Sheila, who was rushed to the hospital, had suffered a serious fracture, numerous lacerations to her head, and significant bruising on the left side of her torso. Kia, on the other hand, had several bruises on her left shoulder, arm, and leg. The extent of their injuries underscored the brutal and relentless nature of Soto's attack that day. Detectives spoke with Kia, who had been spending the night at her friend Jenna's house. The 2 friends were enjoying a movie in the basement, huddled around a laptop in Jenna's cozy bedroom. Meanwhile, Sheila, Jenna's sister, was upstairs. She had come downstairs to warn the others that an intruder had broken into the house. The intruder didn't waste any time. Armed with Jenna's softball bat, he stormed into the basement where the girls were. According to Kia, the suspect, drenched in blood, stormed into the room and started shouting at the girls, demanding to know where the gun was. Terrified, the girls scrambled into a corner of the bedroom, trying to hide from the crazed intruder. He didn't hesitate and began swinging the bat violently. Kia, who was curled up in a fetal position on the floor, wasn't spared and was struck on her left side despite her attempts to shield herself. Jenna, who was also hit multiple times, eventually collapsed from the blows. The attacker continued his rampage until he abruptly stopped and fled the house, leaving behind a scene of chaos and horror. Still in shock, Kia dashed outside and flagged down the officers who had arrived. She described the attacker as a man in his mid-20s with tan skin and black hair styled in a bowl cut. He was wearing a beige hoodie and blue jeans and stood about 5 feet tall, a bit taller than her. Kia also mentioned that he was skinny and completely covered in blood when she first saw him. Detectives also interviewed Sheila, who shared a chilling account of the attack. Sheila had been in the kitchen preparing a snack when the suspect burst in through an unlocked rear door. The intruder quickly grabbed one of Jenna's softball bats and began aimlessly wandering around the first floor. Sheila, realizing the danger, rushed downstairs to warn Kia and her sister Jenna. As Sheila reached the basement, the attacker followed, swinging the bat with reckless force. Jenna was struck repeatedly and soon lost consciousness from the brutal blows. The intruder then ominously declared, "I'm going to get a gun," before heading back upstairs. The girls, terrified and helpless, could hear him moving around upstairs. In the midst of the chaos, Kia managed to call the police, her voice trembling with fear. Later, Sheila and Jenna's mother bravely came forward with a heartbreaking revelation. She shared that Jenna had fought to protect her sister during the attack, a tragic fact that made the situation even more sorrowful. Jenna was just about to turn 16 this year, a time when she should have been celebrating her youth and future. Following the horrific attack at Jenna's house, Soto continued his rampage. He smashed a window at a home on the 4600 block of Florence Street and entered the house with a knife. Inside, he began attacking a woman. Fortunately, the woman managed to escape, fleeing on foot to a front yard located on the 2100 block of Eggleston Road. Soto pursued her relentlessly, continuing his brutal assault. In a desperate bid to help the woman, a man driving a gray Jeep stopped at the scene. Tragically, he was also attacked by Soto and suffered multiple stab wounds. It was at this point, around 1:35 in the afternoon, that the police finally managed to take Soto into custody. In a dramatic turn of events, Soto, covered in blood and clearly exhausted from his violent spree, dropped the knife right at the woman's feet as officers closed in on him. The gravity of the situation was apparent as both the woman and the man who had tried to help her were left with serious injuries. The woman, whose condition was particularly dire, was immediately rushed to the hospital. Her injuries were so severe that she had to be intubated to help her breathe.
The young lady ran from him. She got some stab wounds in her hands and her face. She's currently at a hospital, and she is intubated. She is in serious condition. One of the Good Samaritans stopped to help her out. He did get some stab wounds. He's fine.
And when Soto was apprehended by the police, he was still wearing the gray sweatshirt and blue jeans, and he was covered in blood. His hands had minor cuts, and he was taken to the hospital for treatment before being released. After being read his Miranda rights, Soto confessed to attacking and stabbing a mailman. He explained that he had fled from that scene upon seeing the police and ended up at a house with a garage where he saw a motorcycle. Soto entered through the unlocked back door of this house, which was located at 4715 Cleveland Avenue. Inside, he found a bat in the kitchen. Soto remembered using the bat to attack the 3 kids he found in the basement. The bat, covered in blood, was later discovered in the upstairs bedroom. This forms part of the city's complaint against Soto. At this point, it's glaringly obvious that this attack is not just brutal, but deeply disturbing and profoundly tragic. 4 people were killed, and there are 7 people who are injured. The sheer scale of violence unleashed by Soto paints a horrifying picture, and it's evident that this incident is more than just a moment of chaos. It's a heartbreaking tragedy. What adds another layer of unease is the fact that Soto isn't a stranger to criminal activity. He lives on Upland Drive, a street alarmingly close to where the stabbings occurred. Soto's criminal record, while not extensive, includes a felony arrest from 2020 for criminal damage to property at a local forest preserve. Additionally, he had some minor traffic offenses. However, despite these run-ins with the law, there was nothing in his past to suggest he was capable of such extreme violence. Authorities were taken aback by the sudden and extreme shift in Soto's behavior. No matter what personal traumas or problems Soto might have faced, nothing could justify the utter chaos he brought upon others. And despite the limited information available online about Soto, a Facebook post has offered some insight into his past. Vincent Cruz, a social media user, revealed that he went to Rockford East High School with Soto and graduated from Rock Valley College. At the time of the attacks, Soto was employed at a clothing store called Hollister. In a heartfelt Facebook post, Cruz expressed his disbelief and sadness over the situation. He wrote, "I literally went to school with this guy. Like, what the heck? How could you do that? Someone who was so nice, Jacob, aka Baca, wouldn't hurt a fly, and you do this to him? It's wild. I just don't get this world. Rest in peace, Baca. We will never forget you, my guy." Now remember when Soto claimed that Jacob had put something in their joint? Well, Initial urine tests have come back negative for any substances. This means that the tests didn't find any drugs or unusual chemicals in Jacob's system. And according to the investigation, Soto is mentally fit to stand for trial. Going forward, Soto now faces an extensive list of charges. He is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of attempted first-degree murder, and 2 counts of home invasion. This array of charges reflects the severe nature of his crimes. All of the people hope that Soto will receive a punishment that matches the suffering he inflicted on his victims. If Soto is convicted, he could face up to 60 years in prison for each count of first-degree murder and attempted murder. For each count of home invasion, he could be sentenced to up to 30 years. Moreover, there's a possibility of federal charges being added to his case because one of his victims was a postal worker. This could lead to even more severe penalties and extend his time in prison, and that is well-deserved. The courtroom drama escalated on April 2nd when Soto made headlines again with a shocking outburst during his hearing. In a surprising and emotional display, Soto shouted, "Only God can judge me," and referred to the people in the courtroom as puppets and serpents.
Soto, appearing in an orange prison uniform, wearing restraints around his waist, stood next to his public defender and shouted at Judge Scott Paganini a number of times, saying, "You're a puppet, you're from the devil, and only God can judge me."
The case has drawn widespread attention and sparked a range of reactions from those affected and the general public. Rockford Mayor Tom McNamara has been a vocal figure in the aftermath, emphasizing the need for communal healing. According to the mayor, Jenna's mother wants everyone to know this.
Jenna died saving her sister and her friend and protecting them from further harm.
Jay Larson, a beloved postal worker who had dedicated over 20 years to serving the Rockford community, has also been remembered with great respect. Ruth Mendoza, an inspector in charge with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, praised Larson's commitment. Jay was doing what he loved, delivering mail to the customers he had served for 25 years. His dedication to his job and his community made his loss deeply felt among those who knew him. President Joe Biden has also weighed in on the tragedy, expressing his horror and sympathy. In a statement released by the White House, Biden extended his prayers to the families of the victims and wished for the full recovery of those injured. He also commended the local law enforcement for their heroic actions, saying, "We are grateful for the heroic actions of local law enforcement, who confronted the suspect and prevented the loss of more innocent lives." This situation is especially heartbreaking for the community, coming as it does so soon after another violent incident. Just days before the stabbing spree, Rockford experienced a tragic knife attack at a Walmart, where an 18-year-old employee lost his life. Timothy Carter, a 28-year-old from Rockford, has been charged with first-degree murder in connection with this tragic event. To make matters worse, recent months have seen a troubling number of similar incidents involving young people across the United States. One particularly shocking case occurred at Appalachia High School in Georgia, where a 14-year-old boy was charged with killing 4 people. The suspect, Colt Gray, faces multiple murder charges and is being tried as an adult due to the severity of the crimes. In another disturbing event, a 15-year-old was involved in a mass shooting in Raleigh, North Carolina, which resulted in the deaths of 5 people, including an off-duty police officer. The community is grappling with these shocking events, which serve as a stark reminder of the urgent need for comprehensive strategies to address and prevent violence among young people. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or distressed, it's important to remember that turning to drugs will only make things worse. Instead of escaping into substances, seek out healthier ways to cope and find support. If you ever feel unsafe or in danger, don't hesitate to reach out for help. There are people and resources ready to support you in difficult times. The world can indeed feel intimidating and overwhelming, but remember, You don't have to face it alone. There are limits to what one person can handle on their own, and asking for help is a strong and courageous step. And if you want more videos like this, please be sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more true crime videos. Take care, and see you in the next one.